Photographed here by Milton Green, she may well have been talking to Arthur Miller, the intellectual who seemed to be the perfect answer to all her needs for self-improvement. She believed he was so much more intelligent than herself, and he, for one, was not about to disagree. Unlike Faust, she wanted to sign a pact against the devil. Hollywood is a place where they'll pay you $1,000 for a kiss and 50 cents for your soul. I know, because I've often rejected the first offer, and my soul is not for sale. In New York, to exorcise the old calendar pin-up Marilyn, she had surrounded herself with her good fairies, Milton Green first of all, then Lee Strasberg and Margaret Hohenberg. Now she turned to Arthur Miller, her final defense against herself. Perfectly conscious of what she was doing, she staked everything on this marriage. Who would have the last word, the New York or the Hollywood Marilyn? Which one would prevail, Jekyll or Hyde? It was while listening to Miller being interviewed that Marilyn learned that they would be married before she left for London to shoot The Prince and the Showgirl. Since journalists had camped out on her landing, she improvised a press conference. Yes, she was going to marry Arthur Miller. Yes, she would convert to Judaism for him. Yes, she was proud of him for fighting against McCarthyism and intolerance. Marilyn had never been out there on the front line, but neither did she hide her progressive opinions. Those bastards in Hollywood wanted me to dump Arthur, telling me it would ruin my career, she said. They're a bunch of cowards who just want me to be the same as them. Her first love story with the President of the United States had been with Abraham Lincoln, who, a century earlier, had abolished slavery in her country. She wanted to show herself worthy of his example by supporting Miller, who was now being investigated by the Anti-American Activities Committee. Miller confessed to having gone along to several meetings of communist writers, but refused point-blank to give the committee the names of the other participants.
It is absolutely beyond the power of this committee to inquire into my association.
Stand away from the stand. I'll stand with you.
To Marilyn's great joy, Miller became a hero of the fight against oppression. Since her husband and several of his friends were considered extreme left-wingers, according to the criteria of the time, the FBI opened a file on Marilyn too. On the 29th of June 1956, when the press was invited to witness the happiness of the bride and groom-to-be, the day was marred by an ill omen. The car in which the New York correspondent for Paris Match was traveling veered off the road and hit a tree. The journalist smashed through the windscreen and was fatally wounded, almost before Marilyn's eyes. She fainted. A shortened press conference was held a short while later under a tree on Arthur Miller's property in Roxbury, Connecticut. Marilyn seemed absent, Arthur somewhat distant. Death was in the air.
I'm not going to say where we will be married for just that reason, because I think it's time enough for everybody to know when it happens.
Miss Monroe, a school teacher just got a letter from an 11-year-old boy in which he was to write about 3 wishes, what he would do with 3 wishes. And he said that he would like money first, and second to be an engineer, and third, he said, when I grow up I'd like to have a blonde. She has to have blue eyes. She has to be like Marilyn Monroe. This is my life. Now you were the 3rd choice on that, sir.
I'm flattered.
The wedding ceremony took 4 minutes. Being with Either people just want to die, said Arthur about Marilyn. This girl sets up a challenge in every man. Most men become more of what they are natively when they're around her. A phony becomes more phony. A confused man becomes more confused. A retiring man more retiring. As for Marilyn, she confirmed what everyone had long suspected. I've always been attracted to older men. Young men have nothing in their heads. Her marriage to Arthur Miller was to last 3.5 years, making it the longest-lasting relationship Marilyn ever had. On the 13th of July 1956, Marilyn and Miller boarded the plane for London. In her luggage, she had packed plenty of books. More than ever, she would seek refuge in poetry, even though Miller would later write somewhat nastily that he never saw her finish a book, apart from Colette's Chérie. She also packed a supply of Milltown, one of the tranquilizers she was dependent on. Milton Green, Marilyn, and everyone else kept huge quantities of pills in their pockets and ate them like sweets. Their arrival in London was triumphant. Sir Lawrence and Lady Olivier came to the airport to meet the most famous couple of the day, while more than 70 policemen struggled to contain 200 rampaging journalists. Milton, who had left a few days earlier, was also there, but as usual, he didn't show himself, remaining perpetually absent from the archive footage. Did he suspect that the filming about to begin would be one of the most painful experiences of Marilyn's career? Or that Margaret Hohenberg, urgently called to London, would tell her patient she was wrong to have formed her own production company, and that she would refer her immediately to Anna, the daughter of the famous Freud? Marilyn said of her inner struggles, "When an artist wants at all costs to get to the truth, he sometimes feels close to insanity. It's because he's forcing himself to dig deep inside himself for what is true." The drugs and the alcohol plunged her into a state approaching total amnesia. In this area of her life, as in many others, her marriage to Arthur Miller changed nothing. In fact, it was perhaps Miller who was more changed by the marriage than she. Getting a taste for his new celebrity status, he had no scruples about milking it for all it was worth, particularly financially, and he soon began to see in Milton Green a rival. Milton wasn't totally innocent either. Like Miller, like Strasberg, and like all the shrinks Marilyn consumed without moderation, he too tried to control her, going so far as to supply her with all the drugs she believed she needed.
You know what's going to happen? I'm going to fall in love with you. Because I always do.
Always?
Both times. So, you better watch out. You better watch out.
But did Milton for a moment suspect that this film